Hi folks, my name's Stephen McClelland. I'm here with the legend that is and one of the original Fab Four, Mr. Eddie Mahon. And as always, Derry Nostalgic is brought to you by Paul Martin Menswear. Here's the moment when I met Eddie at his home.
I signed for Derry on the 13th of August 1963. Made my debut against Port Vale, beat them 1-0. Had, for some really unknown reason, had a really good game, and I came in the team. But Derry had signed another goalkeeper prior to my signing for them, a boy called McKinley from Scotland, and I played the first 7 or 8 games and did really well. And he came into the team then from about in November, something like that, until maybe March, and I went and played against Carrick Rangers in the first round of the cup. Beat them, beat the Steaua 5-1 at Derry for the second. Played Banbridgetown in the semi-final on an absolutely steaming wet day, and got to the final, and there we are. The rest is history. We won the final.
Is it true that the Derry City directors wanted to sign Bert Troutman for the Cup Winners' Cup to play and goal instead?
Absolutely, yeah. That's probably one of the reasons, was that I wasn't terribly experienced. I'd done well. Really, I think I only conceded 1 goal in the entire cup run, and there's an own goal from Billy Cathcart, so it held my end up at the rest. And Bert Troutman has just retired, and he played in the older guys amongst us listening to this will remember a charity match in Montcrana. Mega stars playing, and big boxers and actors and all the rest down in McGinn Park. And Bert Troutman had just retired, and he was overplaying that game. I wouldn't say a push, but there was a big rumours that he was going to come and play just for the European match at Derry. And Willie, to my eternal gratitude, says, "Look, Eddie got us here," and he stays in the team. And that.
What about Willie Ross as the man and the manager?
Willie Ross, he was one of the old school managers. There wasn't a huge amount of tactics. Even in the league in those days, tactics were, really not much tactical stuff. It was all just fitness and the way you go, lads, and do your stuff. Willie had this phenomenal ability of being able to put a player. Now, apart from myself, who had played most of the game as outfield, Frankie Campbell, our right back, was the centre forward in the team, and Willie changed him to right back. Billy Cathcart came as a centre half, changed him to left back. Jimmy McGill came as an inside left, Willie changed him to right half. Jumbo was a right back, centre half. Doogie was an inside right. Our entire back six had come to Derry pretty well as different players, and Willie slotted them in differently. And it's amazing, people would be less than complimentary about Willie's tactical, but it made that team.
You look now, travelling to Bucharest, it's like a cheap flight away when you think about it, for 4 hours. I suppose with the Cold War at the time, the journey must have had complications.
Don't even begin to speak about it. It was just incredible. We had hired, I think it was an old Lancaster bomber or something. It wasn't that. It was one of those old tied with strings sort of jobs, And it was my first flight, so I had no fear or anything else. By the time I came off it, I was bound never to fly again. For a start, our flight to Romania, to Bucharest, took 10 hours. Which is incredible. We were flying over Austria, and the pilot, which scared the bejesus out of me, player comes out of the cockpit and he's walking down the plane. I'm thinking, jeez, he's running this show. Anyway, he said, "Anybody like to touch down in Vienna for a bit of duty-free shopping?" I said, absolutely, And that was the last we heard of it. He just flew on. But in flying on, he flew over Yugoslavia. He didn't tell anybody. He was, he should have gone round the bottom of Yugoslavia. And next thing, the tracer bullets were shooting. You could see the tracers coming out past the plane, And we had to divert and go down.
With the red and white.
Queue for the toilet, I can tell you.
Right.
At that stage, flights go, it was certainly an introduction.
And when you arrived in Romania, I believe Nicolae Ceausescu, who was the leader at the time, was it an awkward exchange meeting?
No, we didn't really meet him. Ceausescu was he wasn't the president of the country at the time. He was in charge of the army. All the communist teams were army teams. The army controlled them all, every country pretty well. And we only met him just before the game. And the game itself, actually, two teams were standing ready to go out, right? The other goalkeeper, a guy called Dumitru Eremia, was standing opposite me. So I reached out my hand across to him to shake hands, and he grabbed him, big smile and all the rest. And for all their matches later on, he sent me a card from everywhere they were. He's a really nice fella. I was talking to him at the game and all, sort of broken English.
And Steaua, the team in general, did you know much about the quality of the team at that particular time?
Anything. Knew nothing, absolutely. And there was no people coming to look at the teams.
Before we move on to your performance there, which I will chat about, Frank Guerin listed Jumbo Crossan as one of the two heroes in that game. What made Jumbo special?
Jumbo was terrific. Jumbo was 5'6" or something, centre half. And who would have thought, what can you do at 5'6" as centre half? Jumbo had the greatest ability of manoeuvring players into the positions he wanted them in, and he was very fast. He was nipping around, he could nip around in front of the guys and steal the ball and all the rest. Jumbo was a wonderment.
Defeated 3-0 that night, but despite that, you were listed as the second hero for Derry.
I know that.
Was it a busy night for you that? Go back.
It was a really busy night, and I did really well, but even the 3-0 still grates with me. The first goal was definitely behind the byline before he crossed it, and your man, when he crossed it, your man just buried it, had no chance for the shot. Second goal was a penalty. I was telling you, I better going to hand it and push it against the post. And the third goal, well, it didn't really matter. The ball bounced between myself and Frankie Campbell. Frankie left it to me, I left it to him. At that stage it didn't matter. But I love in the memory that, it could have been 0-0 if things had just turned a slightly different. But there you are.
I suppose, the discussion with Steaua, I believe, pre-match, they aimed for a 4-0 to take the Derry from what we gather. Yeah. Did you sense frustration from the opposition at any time during that match?
Not really, no. We were just, again, we were out there and probably in awe of the situation. We wouldn't have worried about what anybody else thought. But the fact of being out there, it was amazing. I remember before the match, just before the game, they had these beautiful looking girls coming out with the 11 big bunches of flowers, And one of them came up and handed this big bouquet of flowers to me in the goal. And I went round behind the goal and threw it to my wife and sister. There was a woman in the crowd, but I just threw it into the crowd, and got a huge round of it. So they were kind of on my side then, for the game. There was no shouting or abuse or anything like that. They sort of were, any time I made a decent save, they got a big round of applause,
And then he's come back to Brandywell and he's lost 2-0 that night in front of 10,000 supporters. Did you ever feel that you could bring it back?
I always felt we could bring it back, but going out there and doing well. We went out to Steaua, we weren't a better team. They were a better team than we were. They were fitter and trainer and all the rest, And it was a bit of unrealistic, even to think that you only got beaten 3-0 out there by a big international team. To turn that around, the Brandywell, you still have to go out and play them at the Brandywell. It doesn't happen. I never felt it was realistic that we would turn it around, although the Lynn match the next year was... that certainly, was one of the greatest.
So I suppose in the end of it didn't turn out as a non-event as such.
Probably in Brandywell, we probably could have got a draw out of it. When you're going looking for goals and things to try and rectify it, you're going to leave gaps, I can't even remember what the goals in the Brandywell were, to tell you the truth.
There is a famous match programme with a red and white cover as a collector. Do you have the original copy? I'm just looking at it in front of us here.
Indeed.
And again, you have that in with your cherished items, Eddie?
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of the cherished items, as you say. Funny enough, one thing about the games in both Bucharest and Derry, they wouldn't swap shirts. I was dying to get a shirt, so the night after the Derry match, I went down to the City Hotel because they were staying there to see if they would, if I could get a swap shirt, in the City Hotel. George Constantine was there. He's big. He was 78 caps for Romania. We were sitting chatting and I was up in his room, and he went in to have a shower and he left his shirt lying in the bed. He had his own shirt. They all had their own shirts for some reason.
Well,
I won't. And decided on the side of good relations and peace
and honesty.
Never got the shirt.
Not many people would all that.
Should have legged it.
And then, as you say there, FK Lynn, the following year City claimed the victory in that tie. Did that remaining experience prepare the squad for the following year?
The following year, I was back at university. Frank, I was up for I was in the bench at the game, but Frank Connor was the goalkeeper for it. We went over to Oslo and got beaten 5-3. We got beaten in Oslo. Great mate of mine, Big Bobby Gilbert, was centre forward. Our 3 goals. I think Bobby Gilbert actually out-jumped the goalkeeper for every one of them. He was great in the air. Bobby was marvellous in the air. Great header of the ball. And so when they came back, they changed their goal. It was a small goalkeeper, about 5'8" or 5'9". They changed their goalkeeper into a big boy 6'2" to counteract Bobby Gilbert. But Bobby actually got injured for the game, and Faye came on. And we slotted on 5 on the ground. Your man couldn't get down to them, So they were a bit out of luck on both. If they had to swap the keepers for the matches, it might have been different. But Lynn was a great night. Jumbo got a goal. Everybody says it was around 30, 40 yards. I think he actually had it from up somewhere, It just lit.
I suppose before my time, I'm thinking,
it was amazing. It was an amazing goal. I mean, it just fell from him and he just volleyed it. He must have been at least 40 yards out and right into the corner, I remember too, something I'll never forget, and it preceded the eventual loss of Derry to the Irish League. We had Harry Cavan, who is not a very well liked figure, or Anderlecht. We played Anderlecht out there, and an absolutely awful night, and they'd beaten us by a tank, and they were dying to come back to Brandywell because the match was over. Harry Cavan wouldn't let, because they said the ground wasn't good enough to. Right. I was sitting on the bench. It wasn't the bench. There was a tarp. It was an absolute foul night, And if you remember the old Glentoran stand,
I do, yeah.
Well, they'd taken a tarpaulin, the front of the stand, right down over it's not even a terrace in there, it's just a couple of, right? Took it down there and they made a sort of almost like a director's box out of it. And myself and Frankie Campbell and Ronnie Wood would have been the 3 subs in the night. William Wilton, Claude Wilton's uncle, was a Derry representative in the Irish League. When the final whistle went and everybody was going mental, right? William Wilton, the Derry representative, turned to Harry Cavan and said, "A great night for Derry football, Mr. Cavan." So it's the red rag to a building. Harry Cavan, in my hearing, sitting right behind him, said, "Mr. Wilton, it'll be the last one." What amazed me in that was we knew what he thought, but for anybody to say that in earshot is just phenomenal. And sure enough, we were drawn against Anderlecht the next game and they wouldn't let us play in Brandon.